it is an honor for us because you can join with us in our virtual discussion. So in beta talks, usually we discuss about UFO and aliens and the story about alien encounters and like testimonial from people and it's amazing to hear about the experience of Mr. Philip Kinsella and Mr. Philip Mantle, and now it is about your story. So okay, maybe I can go in to first question. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Reverend Alyson Shanes, would you tell us about your experience with extraterrestrial or something?
Okay. Well, what I can do, if you like, is I can share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint, if you want me to do that just now.
Okay.
I can do
Wait.
that. Let me have a wee look now.
Wait. Is there
Beginning.
any option to share screen? No.
Yeah, there is on, hang on. Too many windows open. Share screen. And that, if I share that, can you see that?
Wait. Yeah.
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 Okay. There we go. Okay. So I've written down the three main experiences that I've had. I've had other ones, other sort of paranormal type experiences, but I've decided probably be best to concentrate on the three main ones that have happened. So the first one, now it begins as though it's a demonic attack, but I'll explain why you might be interested in it from a UFO point of view, and how the two things may be linked. So this was December 1999. It was coming up for the millennium. I was 27 years old, and I woke up from having a nightmare. This nightmare, incidentally, was about vampires, and I felt really frightened when I opened my eyes. The room was a very strange shade of blue, and I was, as I say, I was very unnerved by this dream of vampires and these dark forces that seemed to felt like they were closing in on me. And so I turned on my side. I tried to waken my partner, but I couldn't. And that's a feature of this type of attack. Other people who have experienced similar or the same have reported that they couldn't wake their partner either. So I'm just going to go to this one. So I turned on my side, and as I turned on my side, I was, at that moment, I was thrown on my back and I was pinned down and I was completely paralyzed. And above me was this male entity with long black hair, chalk white face, and dark eyes. Not unlike the being in this picture here. And that sort of like the Joker, you know, that kind
Yeah.
of grotesque. And over in the corner of the room was an old woman, and she was in a long white nightdress. She was laughing and covering her mouth to stifle her amusement. And this demonic entity above me, which is become, it's come to be known as an incubus or a night demon, leered very menacingly towards me. And he said, "You thought you could get away from me, didn't you?" My eyes were the only thing that could move at that point. And so I was in vain. I was trying to sort of, move my body, twist my body, but I couldn't. And I was just really panicking because this was clearly something very dark, very menacing, and I would go as far as to say evil. And he had one long fingernail, which he was trying to scrape at my throat with, trying to cut my throat. Obviously, I was terrified, but I couldn't scream out. I tried to, but I couldn't. And I was just trying to get further back into the pillow and get away from him. I don't remember feeling the sensation of breathing at all. But at some point I passed out. I don't know what happened after that point. Because when I opened my eyes, it was morning. The blue tinge in the room was gone and everything was normal. And I might have thought, and I did consider, is this a dream? Do I have some kind of sleep disorder that's caused this, and sleep paralysis is part of that experience. But I'll come back to sleep paralysis. I'll come back to that in a minute. So about a week later, I woke up again. I was paralyzed again. The room had this sort of strange blue tinge, and as I say, I was paralyzed for a second time. But on that occasion, there was no one in the room that I could see. I could feel them or felt them trying to be there, but I couldn't actually see them. And my partner was next door at the time, and he was completely unaware of what was going on in the next room. And I was trying to get my partner's attention, trying to, with great difficulty, managed to eventually scream out, and he came through to the room. As he switched on the light, the blue light immediately disappeared, and that was, just replaced by the overhead light of the room. As I say, I came to think of the experience as either being a sleep disorder or a demonic entity. And it didn't really matter which one it was, because what mattered was that I'd had that experience. I deep down, I sort of still attribute it to the demonic, I think. But what happened next was that it took on a significant UFO perspective. I never really, I could never have equated the two things. I saw them as being completely separate. So this, I found out 15 years later in November 2014. I was introduced to someone, James Welsh, at the Stirling Paranormal Festival, and he told me about these sightings that he had had above Glasgow in December 1999, leading up to the millennium. He said that he and a friend had been watching UFOs on a recreational ground, and so the recreational ground is like kind of up a hill, and it looks over to what he was watching this UFO doing maneuvers over the Rutherglen area of Glasgow. And at one point they saw an object hovering above some high-rise flats. And this was all he said to me. And he said it had a bluish-white plasma effect. And it then seemed to just implode and vanish. So I was on the train to Stirling on day 2 of this paranormal festival, and James was sitting across from me, and he said, I brought this photograph to show you. He had put it together. It was sort of photoshopped. The photo that I'm about to show you is a version that I photoshopped. So it's not the same one as, it's not the same one that James Welsh showed me, but it's exactly what he told me was this blue plasma light, and he showed me where these flats were, and they were my flats. This UFO that he had seen was hovering above my flat in December 1999. So I was really shocked by this, because this was the same month that I'd experienced my demonic attack, seeing that blue light, and this was seen right above my flat in Tory Glen. As I say, I've got no dates written down, but it was the same month as the UFO was seen. And I think that it is highly likely to be related to that attack. And maybe even some other events that happened in those flats that have a demonic element to them. I don't know if it was a portal that opened, but it just was, for me, it was more shocking that somebody could corroborate this experience. This wasn't just something that was in my head, because that was one of the options. Maybe I just dreamt this and it was like a vivid dream. There's a problem, I feel, with thinking that sleep paralysis comes with just hallucinations. I think there's a problem there with that. But I had experienced it to be demonic, but there was a possible alien element there. Maybe the two things are the same. So that was my first one. After that, I went to university. I started up the Glasgow University Pagan Society, which took up a lot of my time. And in that society, we did things that were related to ancient religions. And so my focus came to be on ancient religions. So things like Buddhism and Hinduism and stuff like that. I did a little bit of world religions at university as well. And one of the things that really sort of grabbed my attention was chakra meditation and what the chakras could do for the body. Because as I come to later on, meeting these sort of interdimensional or extraterrestrial beings telepathically requires some effort. And there are different types of meditations that you can do, but the one that I found most useful and use most frequently is the chakra meditation. And that helps you to balance your body and mind. I'm sure you and your listeners know all about this kind of stuff, but it raises your awareness, or it can raise your awareness to where it needs to be to communicate. And from there, you can do things like shamanic journeying and mediumship in order to meet these interdimensional beings in that meditative state. So you come to understand that, you know, the body and the mind are separate. So the physical, if the physical is paralyzed, it doesn't mean that you can't use your mind to do certain things and to go certain places. So some people experience it very profoundly, but for others, it will most likely happen quite subtly at first. Another thing that can be used is, and I'm not here to convert anybody to vegetarianism or plant-based diets, but there is a real change in consciousness when veganism, plant-based diet, is adopted. And that might be partly because of the drop in the number of chemicals and antibiotics and diseases that we consume through eating animals and their byproducts. It may be that the body is busy processing all the junk that we devour in the material plane, so it's more difficulty connecting to the spiritual. I don't know. I can't answer that, but shamans use adopt a vegan diet and fasting. They temporarily fast from meat and dairy as an act of purification before they ingest psychedelic plant medicine. And what I can tell you is that within a few days of adopting I'm saying a few days, it was probably about 2 weeks of adopting a vegan diet, I had what I consider to be my most profound experience. It was both spiritual and alien in nature. So it was one morning in 2013, and it was a few weeks after the diet change. I think I've just got a little. It was a few weeks after the diet change. And I woke and there was this beam of light that was projecting from my forehead up onto the ceiling, or it was either projecting from my forehead or it was coming down to my forehead. And it was like this sort of cone shape. And there was a circle overhead, like a platform. And this was, all my emotions were going at this point. Elation, terror, excitement. I didn't know what was going on. And then I realized that there was a dark-haired man staring down at me from this platform. And he called over to someone at the side very excitedly and said, "We've got her. We've got her." As though they'd been trying unsuccessfully for some time. And then a couple of others came over and they looked down But the one who seemed to be in charge, he leaned over the platform and extended his arm towards me. And he desperately pleaded for me to tell people about them. That was his exact words. You have to tell people about us. And of course, I was just terrified, and I immediately agreed. He was still anxious though, and he said to me, "You must promise that you'll tell people about us." And again, I assured him that I would, and I promised that I would tell people about them. And what woke me from that encounter, this is what he looked like. I found that online on a similar site, that I thought, that's the man, that's what he looked like. Somebody else had, I think, seen him and called him alien bodyguard. This is what woke me up. My cat, Gandalf, he was really stressed at what he was seeing. He was howling and pacing back and forward frantically, trying to bring me out of whatever altered state that I was in. And eventually, with his howling, he managed to do that. Now, I had, during this time, I was lifted off my pillow. I wasn't flat on my pillow, I was lifted off my pillow. And the image shut down, and I felt myself fall back onto my pillow. And obviously, I had to spend some time comforting a poor, terrified cat that was extremely upset. And anyone who's ever owned a pet will tell you that they are extremely sensitive to anything unusual that's going on. So I don't know what he saw, but it really freaked him out anyway. I was quite shocked when I saw this painting, because it was very reminiscent of my experience. It's a picture of the Annunciation by Crivelli. It was painted in 1486, and the Annunciation being the message given to the Virgin Mary by the Archangel Gabriel that she will have a son. And there's similar pictures of the Annunciation. In some paintings, it's Gabriel, and in some paintings it's a dove, and you can just see, I don't know if you can actually see my cursor, but you can just see there, above Mary's head, you can see the dove that represents the Holy Spirit. As I say, there's other ones with Gabriel. That's from 1490. The beam of light coming to the foreheads. And then there's this that really I found these sort of paintings are on church ceilings or domes, these platforms with people looking down at you. So this is a spiritual experience that other people have had and have described and have painted. There's another one from Our Lady of Victory Basilica in Buffalo, New York State, which really reminded me of exactly what I saw, this platform with the people looking down. I think going back to the first one there, and with the others, the defining factor is this beam of light coming to the forehead from a circle. You can see a circle in the sky there. And coming to Mary's third eye, the same way in my experience, this beam of light sort of came to my third eye. And this seems to be, for artists, this seems to be the usual way that Gabriel communicates his message through the third eye. So for that reason, I gave this being that I spoke to, and there's much more to it that I go into more detail in my book, but the being that spoke to me, I give him the name Gabriel. I don't know if he was the angel Gabriel, but I give him the name Gabriel. Now, the third was a skywatch with a group of people from SPI Scotland, which is a group that I run from Glasgow, but it covers all of Scotland. And we have an annual conference and do sky watches and things like that, and investigate hauntings and any kind of strange paranormal thing we investigate. So I held a sky watch with a group from SPI Scotland at the Carron Valley Reservoir in the early hours of the 21st of March 2015. And I'd chosen that time because it was during a mass contact event. So I knew that people from all around the world would be conducting CE5 experiments and attempting, which is human-initiated contact. They would be attempting human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials. I also opted for a location which was close to Bonnybridge, or the Falkirk Triangle. It's much more of a than just a triangle, the Bonnybridge and Falkirk phenomena. But I deliberately selected an isolated spot with a body of water because UFOs are also associated with reservoirs and lochs, which is a Scottish word for lake, loch, and other similar places with water. Now, I'm in our group of, I think there was 6 of us. In our group, I was the only one that was attempting CE5 that night. And I decided to begin by opening up all the chakras, which I mentioned before. And when you do that, you imagine the Kundalini energy rising through the spine, which I talk about again, all this in the book. I visualize this energy extending up through the crown chakra into the sky like a beam of light, or a beacon of light. And I sought out and visualized the being who had communicated with me when I encountered the Palladians, because people who have encountered the beings that I encountered have given the name Palladian to them, and say that they are from the Pleiades, the group, the Seven Sisters group, star constellation. So anyway, I visualized and sought out Gabriel, and I got him. I saw him, and I asked him that he show his presence, and then I said to him, I've brought these people here, and you've got to show them something. You've got to show them anything at all. And during this time, the others that were standing on the road outside the car saw an unidentified light flash in the sky. I didn't see it because I was in a deep meditation and communicating with Gabriel at the time. So when I finished my CE5 meditation, I joined with the others to watch the skies for a while. And I looked along to the left of the road, and this is what I saw. It was the middle of the night, and it was probably just before 4 a.m. or thereabouts. The road was black. There was just blackness, pitch black. And you couldn't see anything ahead. And so in this non-light, psychically, because I remember I was like in this raised state of awareness at this point, and psychically I could see this being emerge. I've given them the name White because he was white, he wasn't grey. So I've used that term in the book, and it also encapsulates the idea of the white, which is another word. I don't know where that it probably comes from. It's probably an Anglo-Saxon word. It sounds like an Anglo-Saxon word, Wight, which was a dangerous supernatural being that had chalk white skin. And in that area, I later found out from Ron Halliday, who is an investigator, long-time investigator in Scotland. I found out that the area was well known for its fairy lore, and there are several stories of supernatural creatures being seen there. So that was another interesting aspect that I didn't know about before we went. So there's definitely some crossovers between UFOs and demonology, I would say. I'd say my own story is testament to that. I couldn't just talk about it though in a couple of sentences. At that point, I was aware that my third eye was open to see whatever was there, and I was also aware that I was in the company of some people who might be fearful or wary of encounters with the supernatural. So I didn't say anything to them. I just basically telepathically acknowledged this being. I respectfully requested that we be given proof of UFOs. And then I ended the contact because I felt a little bit unnerved by this being, and I didn't really want to communicate with it any longer than I had to. So I shut it down and just closed off my or raised my psychic defenses just to be safe. So about 45 minutes passed, and we were getting really cold. We were ready to go home, and one of our group actually did leave. And we watched until his car was well out of sight, saw the car lights go out of sight. And that was when we had our most significant sighting. It was 4:45, time being a defining factor for seeing supernatural things, especially between the hours of 3 a.m., 3 to 4 a.m., which was round about the time that I saw the white. It's also a significant time for otherworldly encounters. It's sometimes referred to as the demon hour, and it's often a time when people have these incubus attacks that I mentioned previously, when they sense a presence in their bedroom, or experience alien abduction. This sort of, now it was slightly later, it was about 4:45, but those sort of early hours of the morning is when that's when you're more likely to encounter something. It's generally not a time that the nicer supernatural experiences happen. It's regarded as quite a dark time, and some Christians also claim that Jesus died at 3 p.m. Therefore, 3 a.m. is a mocking of his death. So 3 o'clock in the morning is when the demons come out. Others say that he rose from the dead at 3 p.m. and that the devil likes to work at the opposite hour. So whatever's the case, the forces of darkness seem to be stronger in the middle of the night, when we humans are normally at our weakest. So anyway, it's 4:45 a.m. There was a bright object in the sky. It was far brighter and bigger than Sirius, because I had noticed it. We had noticed it. And I had commented, that can't be Sirius, because we were like sky watching. So we were trying to identify all the different things that were in the sky. And I said that can't be Sirius, because it's too big. And also it's orange. And Sirius isn't orange. So I said, I don't know what it is. So anyway, we had assumed that it was a star. But we couldn't identify it. We were not astronomers. We didn't have star maps or anything like that. We didn't have an app on our phone that might have informed us, and nowadays that's exactly what we would have, to tell us what should and shouldn't be in the sky that we're looking at. But we had been watching satellites, and we had agreed that it wasn't in any way like a satellite. It was bigger, it was brighter, and it was orange coloured. So I was facing the reservoir when I spotted it, and I said to the rest of the group, "Is that moving?" And we all stared, and we watched it move around the reservoir in front of us. And it was at that point that we realised that this object was far closer than we had realised. And there was just silence as we watched this object. And then I shouted, "Tell me somebody's recording this." Because, of course, we were also spellbound that up until that moment, we'd completely forgotten why we were gathering there. So it was chaos and excitement, getting binoculars and getting cameras. And but then it was really strange, because what we saw with our naked eye, this large sparkly orange object, which was moving in a zigzag, it was sort of zigzagging across around the reservoir. And it had this sort of flashing beacon on it as well. It banked from the south of the reservoir right round to the east side, and then over a hill. Now, Kevin Goodman, who is a researcher in Warminster, he was on the April EDX files show that I did. You can find that on my website, alysondunlop.com. He said that it sounded very much like an amber gambler. They call an amber gambler, amber being a colour, a shade of orange. and that's what they call it in his part of the world. But we were astonished and not a little bit disappointed to see that what we saw with the naked eye was completely different. That's the Carron Valley there. That was what we got through the binoculars. I also have the video of it. It was completely different. Now, hopefully I can play this for you and you'll see it. And you'll just see it for seconds. You can see it blinking, but that's about it.
Yes, I can see it.
Good, good. And you see a little flash there. And
Yeah.
that's about all you see. I think that's about it. Yeah, so I'll just stop that. But that wasn't what we were seeing. We were seeing this larger object that was orange and it was sparkly and it was, much more impressive than that. Much more impressive. So we were just a little bit disappointed. So yeah, our photos and video footage didn't show what was clearly visible to us without technology. We had expected to see this bigger sparkling amber object when we zoomed in, even when we zoomed in, but it was like a ghost of an image. I think that's how a shadow of what we were actually seeing. So that was nothing like what we were witnessing. Is that part of the UFO phenomenon? Because we were quite baffled by it. Yeah, I've said that through our binoculars. It was without binoculars. It was bright and orange, and I actually thought I was looking through the wrong side of the binoculars. So I turned them round, and then I thought, no, I'm not. I'm looking at the right side. So I was sorely disappointed about that. Not to have like strong evidence that of what we were seeing. It was quite perplexing. It was quite frustrating, to say the least. And Ron Halliday looked over the footage and he listened to my account of the events, and he concluded that there's no immediately rational explanation for what we saw. So we're sort of left not knowing. So those are my three main encounters with the sort of alien UFO subject. I'll just leave that there for a minute if anybody wants to jot down my details, spiscotland@gmail.com, if anybody needs to email me. I've got a couple of websites, Rev Alyson Dunlop Shanes.com, Mixcloud, mix-cloud stroke Alyson Dunlop. And actually, I think that's mixcloud.com. I'll need to check that. Anyway, it's it's mixcloud.com. And then alysondunlop.com, and that's my book there that's just come out, Mystic Visions, Spontaneous Supernatural Visions, A Quest for Meaning and the Journey to the Divine Self Through the Visionary Path. So that's pretty much it. And that's pretty much certainly the UFO and alien stuff that I've witnessed and experienced. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
it.
uh, about your first encounter with a nightmare, um, with vampires and something old old creature, old human. Uh,
Mhm.
was the dream repeat in another days?
No, no, I didn't have a repeat dream either. No, yeah, you mean like before it happened, I was dreaming of vampires. I didn't have any other dreams of vampires. No, nothing like
See,
that.
and uh, is there any explanation about blue plasma uh, that that you saw? Maybe a
No,
portal or
well, I don't know. I mean, that's my guess. My guess is that it was some kind of portal that was utilized, was used by that these beings, and that possibly that is similar to other UFO sightings that have been seen. Um, Perhaps those are portals to other dimensions, rather than, well, I mean that it's unidentified and it's in the sky, but that doesn't mean it's not. It's like a physical object rather than a portal. So that would be my guess, though. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
see. So about your experience with player dates for the first time, uh, did they tell you about their origin or their purpose to you?
Nothing, no, but when I was researching all this stuff, I saw connections between the Greek god Hermes, and from there, I saw that his heritage was, well, his mother was Maya, and Maya, I mean, this just could be me going down a rabbit hole, but Maya is one of the seven sisters. The seven sisters are the Pleiades, and these beings are known as Palladians from the Pleiades. So there was a connection there. I made that connection. Um, and that I think was I can't remember like what bit of information came to me first, but I did a lot of digging around after the experience to find out, had anyone else seen these? And that's one of the drawings that I found. A lot of people see them as blonde
Yeah,
Nordics. They're called Nordics. The ones that I saw had dark hair. Um, but I'm only guessing that they come from the Pleiades, going by what other people have said and going by the connection that I made between Gabriel, who I
I
think this
see.
guy is. Um, I mean, I found it really difficult to the quality that these beings had. I found it really difficult to distinguish whether they were aliens or gods, or or what they were, um, or angels, maybe. You know, uh,
Yeah,
I couldn't quite. I couldn't like put my finger on what they were. And that's why I looked into like other like gods and angels and things like that to see, um, okay, so they're wearing these sort of space suits, but well, who's to say that,
yeah,
angels don't evolve the same way as we all do, and we see them the way they present themselves to us the way that they think will be most meaningful to us. And this all was very meaningful to me, because as this happened, it meant that I could gather all this information together, and I was given the instruction to tell people about them. And that was when I started up SPI Scotland. I started up my radio show, and just like talking to people about these beings and finding out from other people what their experiences were. I just wanted as much knowledge as possible, and then putting together the conference and then writing the book. This is from that point, from meeting these beings, has sort of catapulted me into the subject. I don't want to use the word career, because it's not really a career as such, but it's a path. It's put me on a path of discovery and of gaining as much spiritual knowledge as I can. For me, it is more of a spiritual thing. That's why I personally believe that the phenomenon, or certainly strange sort of spiritual phenomena, like the incubus, like the Pleiadians, even ghosts, spirits. I don't think that we're going to get a scientific explanation for these things. And the reason is that they are in a different realm. You can try and use science to explain them, but they're spiritual. And those two things are different. They're completely different,
Yeah.
That's
About
just what I think anyway.
yeah, and do they give you a message about a
Yeah,
spiritual ways? Or
um, actually, uh, well, they said that I was to tell people about them. That seemed to be really important. And I think it was probably important is because that for a lot of people, they've been forgotten, and they are very important spiritually for us. They are very important for our spiritual development, I think. That is probably why. I have encountered, well, in one out of body experience when I was in space, and I thought, what am I going to do while I'm up here? Because I'd enjoyed being up in space, and so I decided to ask, is there anybody there?
Mm.
And this disembodied voice said back to me, my planet is dying.
Oh.
And I never ever saw them, but I said, can you show me? And we moved across. Now, I don't really know how we moved across, but we moved across, and below me was this, it wasn't like, I wasn't seeing a round planet, I was seeing like a map. And this map, or the edge of a planet, was shown in a different colors. It had like luminous colors, you know, bright yellow, bright orange,
Yeah.
bright pink, like bright lime green, you know. And it was showing me that this planet was dying. So the next day, I'm looking through Facebook, and up comes this picture, and it was the exact same. It was the exact same picture. It was like all these luminous colors. And what it was uh I think it was picking up like radiation or heat. And underneath the heading said, "Is there life on Mars?" And this was a picture of Mars. Now, I had never believed that there was life on Mars, but something when I was up there showed me that there was, that planet had died. That's how I interpreted that.
So this map is about Mars map
Yeah,
in
yeah,
luminance color. In luminance
yeah,
color.
yeah. I don't know. Well, because we're talking just now, I won't try and find it, but yeah, I think that might be something that I missed out from putting in the book. But if there's a second book, I'll put it in that book. There's just so many like little things that have happened. It's not, these things are not an everyday occurrence, but now and again, just some strange thing will happen, and I'll be given some sort of message. Now there was something else. Let me think now.
Oh,
Because you were
so
asking like if there was a message. Anyway, so ask.
it's very interesting because uh, maybe in some case the luminance color is shown uh, in several cases of UFO and alien encounters. Like maybe have you ever heard about the woman named Betty Andreasen? This woman uh, took by maybe a play dance, and she saw luminous color in their realms. So it is very interesting.
Okay, yeah. And I think now there was a sect, what they called the, gosh, I've just done a talk on it not that long ago. Um, they were a Gnostic group anyway. It
Yeah.
was a Gnostic group, and they practiced communicating with angels.
Oh,
And part of that was this the multicolor. So like you see the rainbow or the multicolor when you're in that state, when you achieve that state of heightened awareness or of out of body, that this color seems to be, or these colors seem to be very important. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's, I think like you can initially go through like a rainbow tunnel
yeah.
in some cases, before you see other things. So some people have said that's like it's to do with the visual, like the visual cortex or something like that. I don't know. That's, somebody said that to me. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's interesting that this theme keeps coming up.
Well, what's coming up? Theme?
The theme. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, the theme.
this
Yeah,
yeah,
the
this
theme.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is SPI Scottish? It is your group or
Yeah, it's Strange Phenomena Investigations,
I see.
SPI Scotland. And it was started back in 1979 by Malcolm Robinson. He started SPI and he lived in Scotland. And it was started because of a case called the Bob Taylor case in Livingston. Don't know if you know of that one. It's very
Uh
famous over here. And Bob Taylor was a forestry worker. And he'd been going through the forest, 1979, and been going through the forest, and he saw this round object. And these two sort of other smaller round objects with spikes on them rolled out of it and grabbed a hold of his trousers and tried to pull him towards the object. And he then had smelled this weird smell and he passed out.
uh ah I think I know this case. It
Do you
is in
know
the
this
park.
one?
It's in the park, like
It
forest.
Forest, yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's very strange case
Yeah, and it's probably the only case of its kind that has been investigated by the
by police.
police.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the police took it seriously because Bob
Yes.
Taylor was not somebody he was a very down-to-earth man.
Yeah.
He was not somebody who was prone to making up things. And he was in a bad shape when he got home. He was,
Yeah.
bruised and cut and all this sort of stuff. And they they opened up a police case. Now, I think it's sort of because no further evidence has come to light. I'm not sure if they've closed the case. Bob is no longer with us. He died several years ago. Um, but that was what started off SPI Scotland. And then came along in the 90s, another case in the early 90s, the A70 incident. And the A70 incident was two men. They were on their way back from Edinburgh to a place called Tarbrax. And so this is also within that sort of Bonnybridge, Falkirk area. And they were coming round Harper Rig Reservoir. Gary Wood and Colin Wright, their names are. They were coming round Harper Rig Reservoir, and this object was round the corner. It just above the road, this massive object, black. And Gary, who was driving, he put his foot down and went you know, underneath this object to get underneath it as quickly as possible. And as he went underneath it, this sort of shimmering light came down. And the next thing, they were away from the object, swerving on the other side of the road. Their seatbelts were undone. And when they got to their destination, the person that they were going to see had gone to bed because, unbeknownst to them, they were an hour and a half late. They had 90 minutes of missing time. 90
90
minutes.
minutes. Oh,
90. 1 hour, 30 minutes
yeah.
of missing time. They could not account for that time. And when they got home, they realized they had strange markings on their body. They were having nightmares. Eventually they agreed, Gary got in touch with Malcolm Robinson, and they agreed to try hypnotherapy, hypnotic regression. Now, as a hypnotherapist, because I'm a trained hypnotherapist as well, I would not suggest that that is a good way to retrieve memories, because you can fall prey to false memory syndrome. It's called false memory syndrome.
I see.
And that is a real danger. And because when you get those false memories under hypnosis, you then can't differentiate between what's real and what's not real. So you have to be very, very careful if you choose to do hypnotic regression to retrieve memories. Just be very, very careful with that. But anyway, they did have hypnotic regression. They both said separately that they were taken aboard this craft, and they saw certain different things. You can read about all that they saw aboard this craft, and then that was it. They were put back in their car, and that was their experience. So those were the two sort of quite major incidents. But there's been other incidents that Malcolm and Ron Halliday, who is also part of SPI, have written about. Later on, Malcolm went down to England. So SPI, as it was in Scotland, there was nothing happening in Scotland. And I had been part of SPI in the mid-90s. I'd done an investigation over in a place called Jura, Jura, Jura. You get a whiskey. They make whiskey over there, and I had been part of an investigation because I was visiting an island across from Jura that the following week that this sighting had happened. And what it was there was sightings above Glasgow of this object, and it was then seen across Jura. And I went and interviewed the fishermen, and the guy said that there was two men, and this man that I spoke to, he was one of them. His friend, the other fisherman, had his back to this object, so didn't see it. But the first man said that it was like an arrow that had a red light, but it was shaped like an arrow, and it came across the water. And as he said to his friend, "Look at that, what's that?" And the friend turned round, he said, "This light went out." It was then I went across to Jura and I spoke to the gamekeeper.
Gamekeeper?
Gamekeeper, it's like in a big house. You'll have somebody that takes care of the land and makes sure that
Oh,
nobody's
trespassing.
nobody's trespassing, nobody's
Oh,
stealing like animals
yeah.
that are on the land, which is called poaching. And so I spoke to him, and he said that him and his wife, they had seen this light coming down from the sky. Now I can't remember all the details of it, but the object was seen to skim up into the hills, and the next day he took his like a sort of a cart, a small motorized cart, up into the hills to see if he could see it. and he couldn't see anything. But he said the next day the place was crawling with military, absolutely
Mm.
crawling with military. They were everywhere, and any evidence of anything was gone. It was gone.
Oh,
So that was a case that I investigated back in the mid-90s. And I think it was quite simply, I think it was a military test of some kind. That they'll, I think, carry out things like that in rural areas where fewer people will see, you know. So that was that one. And then, as I say, Malcolm was down in England. I came away from it, and I had a few other things that I was doing. And then when I had this experience with the Palladians, I come back to the subject. I got back in touch with Malcolm, who I hadn't been in touch with all that time, but I got back in touch with him. And I asked him if, I said, I'd like to get back into the subject. I think I want to start a group up here because I see that I can't find any other sort of groups. And he, with his blessing, he said, I tell you what, you start up SPI Scotland in Scotland. So I started up SPI Scotland, and he had SPI England.
mm.
So that was how that came about. And Malcolm's back up in Scotland now. So there isn't don't think there's an SPI England as such. So it's just all kind of back to SPI. But SPI Scotland still exists on Facebook. And as I say, we have our annual conferences. So once a year, we have these conferences. We invite speakers we try and get Scottish speakers, because Scottish speakers kind of get ignored a lot. A lot of the times it's a lot of English speakers, or there's a lot more English conferences. So a lot of people in Scotland don't have that platform to speak. So I'm not saying that it's not all Scottish speakers, but it's designed to give Scottish speakers a platform. It's also designed to give more women a platform to speak, because again, a lot of conferences, particularly UFO conferences, um, there seems to be a majority of male speakers.
Yeah.
So we try to keep a balance. We don't choose like a female speaker over a male speaker, but we try to keep a balance between the men and women, to give like the women a voice as well. So that was another consideration with the conference. But we have had like male speakers from England, we've had male speakers from America. So it's not just Scottish women speaking, but that's a consideration anyway. So that's pretty much it. And now, apart from that, we investigate hauntings, and UFO sightings and alien abduction, or just anything that's happening, anything strange that's happening. Separate to that, I also, because of all my experiences, which have not just been the ones that I've spoken about today, but there's also been experiences where I've had to involve exorcism. And so I went on to become an exorcist. And I'm an exorcist with the Old Catholic and Apostolic Church. And so that's part of what I do as well. But I kind of keep that separate from SPI Scotland. I see that as a bit of a separate thing. So that's SPI Scotland.
So I have a question. Maybe it sounds strange about my question, but can maybe we heard about a demon possessed human or ghost possessed human. Can alien do that? Possessed human?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, they're just spirits as well. You know, they have I guess they have a spiritual side too. I'm trying to think if I'm pretty sure I must have heard of somebody who has been possessed by an
By alien?
alien spirit. I must have done it. That it must have happened. Um, because like, you know, the being that spoke to me was a disembodied spirit from another planet.
Oh,
That when I, you know, it said my planet is dying, that was a disembodied spirit speaking to me,
mm,
an alien spirit. So, you know, there's that. The, there is also another thing to consider with that question. The alien abduction phenomena.
yes.
People have asked why do they abduct? What are they looking for? Now, somebody that I know who is a priest said, you know, these experiments and things like that, they're looking for our soul. They're trying to find our soul and get it because they don't have a soul of their own. Now, my husband, who is a psychic medium, he has spoken to aliens. He's spoken to all kinds of beings. And he was asked by an alien, tell us about human emotion. That was all. That was all they wanted to know. To
About
know
human emotion.
about a human emotion. They didn't understand it. So some aliens, not all, because we can't all, you know, all humans are different. We think
Yes.
differently, we feel differently. So you imagine that there's multitudes of aliens out there, and each one of those, all of their people think differently, you know? There's going to be a lot of different reasons why they might do what they do, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether they're helpful, whether they're evil, all these things. Um, so some may not understand our understanding and appreciation of the human soul, the spirit, um, and being different from the body. They might not understand that. They don't understand how we process things like grief and happiness and, you know, all the different things, sadness that we might experience. Fear, they might not understand that. So they're looking for like
Why we
soul.
feel fear? Yes.
Yeah, they're looking for like
Uh,
maybe the soul in the body and doing all these experiments. And meanwhile, the human is absolutely petrified, absolutely fear frightened out their life. And the alien isn't understanding why? Why is this person frightened? You know, um, there's so many reasons why something might be the case, but we can't really say for sure. But you know, people have so many different experiences
Yes.
of aliens. For a long time, I couldn't understand the idea of the reptilians. It seems to me, reptile aliens seems to me an odd thing to experience or believe in. But now I have spoken to people who have experienced these things, and I know these people. Or I've spoken to them at conferences, and you know, they're not as I initially thought many years ago, before I was really into this subject. They're not crazy. They're not crazy people, but they've experienced crazy things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, they are
Um,
not crazy, but experience the crazy things.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I did once see, but this was again, it was like psychically, but I was in a psychic development circle, and I realized that one of the guys sitting in the psychic development circle had um there was something reptilian about him. And I said to him, I said, "Are you one of these reptilians?" And he looked at me and he said, "Why did you say that?" And I said, "I just got that feeling that there's something reptilian about you." And he said, "Someone else has said that to him. Somebody else, independent of me, had said this to this man, that there was something, like either he had a reptilian attachment, or there was something reptilian about him." Now, as I got to know the man, there was definitely, if I've ever met, have you heard the term psychic vampire? If ever Psychic vampire. If ever I've met somebody who was a psychic vampire, it was this man. Um, Psychic vampires just like drain your energy. They drain your psychic energy from you, you know,
Yeah.
and leave you feeling really quite exhausted, psychically, emotionally, physically exhausted. And he was exactly that, you know. By the way, if you can hear all the noise, I don't know if you can hear lots of noise outside, but that's the
Uh,
bin men.
no.
No, okay, that's good. That's good, because there's
Oh,
loads of noise going on out there. Um, so, uh, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so these creatures, I guess, can exist, you know. I've also seen angel wings come out of people, you know. I've seen all sorts of things with people, not just nasty things, but nice things as well, you know.
yeah.
So the world is full of very, very strange things. And I think we get most out of it, most out of this subject, if we open our psychic awareness. That's when we get the most out of this subject. Not when we're going around with like you go in investigations and people will take these and I did as well, you know, like the electromagnetic gadgets, you know, and things like that. Or they'll go around with their phones and say like they got orbs on their phones, which is really just dust. Um, but they'll get really excited about it. That's nothing compared to what you can get when you open your psychic awareness. And you can see so much more. Everything just opens up to you then, and you can get so many more answers when you do that. Or that's what I've found, at least.
I see. So, according to your experience, how can we uh, make difference between possessed by alien and possessed by demons? Is there any difference?
Are you talking about possession?
Yeah, possession.
Like if somebody is possessed by an angel or possessed by a
Yeah.
demon?
Is there any
How can
difference? Yeah, between human who possessed with alien or possessed with angel, or maybe demon. I mean demon and alien.
yeah.
Is there any difference?
Well, I suppose it would. That's quite a difficult question. I suppose it would depend what the purpose of the possession was
Yeah,
for the being. So, a demon just really wants your soul. It wants to take you to hell, you know. What does, for example, a reptilian, that if that man was possessed by a
yeah,
reptilian, what does it want? Well, he seemed to feed off of psychic energy. So that particular reptilian was surviving from other people's psychic energy. So what it is for the demon or for the alien is the way that they're trying to survive through you. They need something from you. And that whatever that is might be different depending on the entity. Does that answer?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It depends the purpose of the entity.
Yeah, I think so. I would say so.
Ah, Rev Alyson, we have several questions in
Mhm.
chat box.
Great.
One of question is from Mr. Michael. Mrs. Alyson, did the Pleiadians that come to you give a vision to you about disaster or nuclear war in the future?
No, no, they did not. But I can tell you something that about that subject. I I was sitting in a church, St. Mary's, in Great Western Road in Glasgow. It's an Episcopal church. It's beautiful inside. And I had those thoughts in my head about war, and I was thinking about all the war that's going on in the world and what would happen if we were at war, if there was war here. And a spirit person or being came alongside me and said, as long as you're here, you're okay. Now, I take that to mean that as long as I'm spiritually with God, it doesn't matter. And I shouldn't worry about these things. I think that that's perhaps what that meant. I think that I know that in this day and age, it's not, cool to believe in God. But from what I've experienced, it's an important connection to have. Whatever you call God, it's an important connection to have if particularly you are struggling spiritually. Perhaps in one case of somebody I know is struggling with possession at the moment, and the connection to God is the important thing there. I know that's not really answering your question, but the opposite to war is peace. And God is peace. So if we want to get past war, we have to find ways of creating peace. So I guess for me, I was given this message that as long as I was with God, I was, that's where I should be. That's what I should be doing.
So they give you advice to live in peace and uh, do not worry about the war and disaster. Uh,
Yeah, I was given the
yeah,
same. It's kind of this is exactly the same thing. I was worried about an argument that had broken out online on Facebook, and I was worried that uh, someone had said something silly, then somebody had said something
yeah,
insulting, and I didn't want people to, even although the person had said something silly, it was a really stupid thing to say, I still didn't want him to be hurt by the comments that were being made and
yeah.
it was just going to escalate, and everybody was going to get hurt from this. And I found myself worrying about this. And this comes under the story in my book, The Angel of the Underground. And I encountered this being again. I couldn't differentiate whether I didn't really think about it consciously at the time. It's just that as this person held the door open for me at the underground and looked at me, and they weren't quite human. And that's all that I can say. They weren't quite human. I don't know if it was an angel or if it was an alien, but they weren't quite human. And I just sort of thanked them and walked past. When I got to my gate, there were 3 angel cards on the ground, and it was raining, so they were a bit muddy. So I took them upstairs and I washed them, put them on the radiator to dry. And then I had looked at them, and on the back it was written in German. I don't know why, if that is important in any way, but they were written in German. So then I had to translate them. Now, I don't speak German, so it was a rather bad translation, but I got the gist of it. I got the main points, and the main points were about the main points in it basically answered the problem that I was worried about. It told me what to do to stop this from escalating, and it resolved. So and the message was really about it was about peace. It was about overcoming your own ego and forgiveness, forgiving people, I think, is one of the main ways that we can create a peaceful world, because everyone does stupid things. Everyone does things that we're not proud of. And if rather than retaliate, if somebody is genuinely sorry, rather than retaliate, then if we can forgive, that's one way. You can't always do it. You can't always do it, but that's one way of bringing peace to the world. So I think that that's what we're looking for in this world, is ways to find peace. And from several of my experiences, like the Angel of the Underground and other experiences, like in the church, the experiences that I've had have pointed me towards creating a peaceful world. It's not always easy to manage, but it's possible. I think if you can start in your own life, and then it sort of spreads out from there. So, like with me personally, because I'm only one person, but I can do my bit, I can tell people about this. I can tell exactly what they asked me to do, tell people about us. So I can do that, and if that's the only one thing that I can do that helps create a peaceful world, then I've done something. That's the part that I played. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question really, but I think the Palladians are a peaceful people. So I think that they would like for us to know about them,
Yeah, maybe they give you guidance to make a peace in your heart, to not worry about something bad from people.
Yeah.
Okay. We get another question
Mm-hmm.
from uh, Gatot. He asks you about, I'd like to know your opinion based on your experience. Do aliens come from another dimension, realm, or planet galaxy? Are they technological or spiritual creature? Yeah.
Well, I think they're probably, to answer that backwards,
Oh
they're
yeah.
probably both spiritual and technological. We are both we are spiritual beings in physical bodies who use technology, and I'm pretty sure that aliens are the same.
Same.
Now they're probably not all interdimensional, but some will be. Some will be. I mean, if that the incubus that attacked me, that was probably an interdimensional creature if it was coming through a portal, then it was interdimensional. The Palladians, if they were doing something telepathic, that was probably interdimensional. And angels have been known to be able to, they are interdimensional creatures. Now, dimensions, as far as dimensions is concerned, there's like limitless dimensions. My husband was told this by one of his guides. They're limitless. It's infinite. There's an infinite amount of dimensions. It's like space is infinite. You know,
Yeah,
we 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 just cannot comprehend how vast everything is. Everything is just so huge. We can't comprehend it. Um, but yeah, I've had dreams where I've been living a life in a different dimension. And I've woken up the next day and been really sad that I'm back in this world and like in this other world I've got you know a little brother or a child or some you know um so I've been in places in other dimensions or like another there's like maybe another Alyson in another
yeah,
dimension. um I don't know if anybody here has experienced that sort of similar thing, but it's when you wake up and you think, oh, where's my brother, you know, or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
where's my little brother, um, or something like that. It's quite kind of emotional. So you think, wow, that seems like more than just a dream.
yeah.
So maybe that is us getting an idea of what these dimensions are like, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah. That's I think I have ever a same dream too, but I said to another family that I'm not part of your family, so I'm better leaving. Better leaving. So I wake up. So I wake up. So yeah, they welcome me, and I have sister and father, but I didn't see mother, and I said to them, I'm not part of your family, so I'm better leaving. And then I wake up. I wake up.
But you know, I'm reminded of you know, people who have said that they've been part of like the hybrid program
Oh,
and that they have children in another like an alien planet, you know, that they've
yeah,
been experimented on and perhaps they've had eggs or sperm removed and they have a child and they've met that child on a spaceship. And you hear like all this kind of stuff, people saying, um, it sounds crazy. You have to add in the element of, I dreamt this, you know, I dreamt this
mm,
thing, or I experienced this in a meditative state or in an out of body state. Um, I think that's what trips a lot of people up when they're talking about it, because other people who haven't experienced it, maybe who aren't even like really into the subject, are just going to think that's really weird that you were taken on a spaceship and saw, you know, that you had a child. Um, so yeah, I think that that's part of this idea too.
is it is that the same with hybrid with the dream about another family? Do you think same?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that some people um who I am not all. I can't say for all, and I can't speak for other people. But I think that could be similar to me, like saying like, oh, I've got a little brother in another dimension. I've met him in a dream, to somebody saying, I've got a child, I met them on a spaceship. Um, and they maybe met them telepathically or in a dream as well. Uh, and but the only difference is that they might say that this child was a hybrid, part alien, part human. I think I think for a lot of people it becomes almost like a religion in itself, the whole sort of alien subject. I think it works very similar to religion.
Yeah. Maybe the name in each religion is different, but
Yeah,
have have a similarity.
yeah, I think.
Okay, there's a question from Michael. Is there any UFO hotspot in Scotland?
Yeah, well, the Central Belt, it's called the Central Belt. It's basically the centre of Scotland, is quite well known for being a UFO hotspot. We talk about the Bonnybridge Triangle or the Falkirk Triangle, and they get the reputation for being hotspots. Bonnybridge in particular is a UFO hotspot. But uh, elsewhere, places like Gorebridge, um, which is kind of close to um, Edinburgh, and trying to think now where else. It's quite close to. Have you heard of a place called Roslin?
Roslyn?
Roslin, Roslin Chapel. Gorebridge is quite close to there, I think. And it's another place that it has Gorebridge is there's strange things. It's I don't know, just all these places. It's almost like there's just this strange energy about them. When we went to it wasn't so much a skywatch, but we went to the A70 where Gary Wood and Colin Wright were abducted from. And Gary Wood came along. So we're standing there like at midnight on this road where he was abducted, and he was standing with us telling us his story. It really is something I'll never forget. But as he's telling his story, I'm looking at the hills in the background, and they were pulsing. This energy was pulsing off them. And after he'd finished speaking, I asked, can anybody see the pulsing energy of the hills there? And only one other person could see it. His name is Mark Anderson. He was the only other person that could see it. And I think that it's significant that he could see it because he is a repeat witness, a repeat UFO witness,
Oh,
and he's becoming quite prolific in the UFO in ufology in Scotland. As his special subject, I suppose, is artificial intelligence. Um, but he has seen about upwards of 50 UFOs. And there's a definite like connection there. And he was the only other person that could see this pulsing energy. So I don't know why that just seems to me to be quite significant, that I'm somebody who has had experiences. Mark is somebody that has had experiences. And when we were both together in this place where this abduction had taken place, we were the only two people who could see this energy. That to me, what was it? Something about our consciousness, our psychic awareness. We've both done psychic development. So was there something about that we're open to? And something else about Harper Rig, and that night when we were there, and I was doing CE5 again, and connected again with Gabriel. He wasn't happy that I was there. He said, "What are you doing there?" He was really like, "You shouldn't be there." And he said, I'll fix this. I'll sort this." And about a minute later, the other woman who was with me and my friend who was in the car, the other woman came in, and she said, "It's too cold. That's it. Everybody's finished anyway. Everybody's going home anyway. Let's go." Like within a minute. But Gabriel was not happy about me being in that place. So there's something very strange about that area. Definitely. And that I think comes under the Gore Bridge.
Uh, what the energy looks like? Is there any color, or maybe just uh, give you strange vibrousness, give you strange feeling, or you can see the color of the energy.
Sometimes you can see the color of the energy. It's like an aura.
Uh,
Um, and yeah, I guess if I was to think about it, probably there are colors, but they're very faint. They're so faint that you almost can't perceive them. You just, but it's more than just being aware that there's this, that there's a vibration, that there's a pulsing energy. You can visually see them. And it's not just with the third eye. You're not just seeing it psychically, you're seeing it with the naked eye. I'm trying to think if I'm just trying to imagine if I was seeing sometimes you can see different colors when you see things vibrating off. The easiest way to see this is first thing in the morning when the sun is just coming up, just before that point, just that dawn, just before dawn, there's a slight lightness. You have that slight lightness. If you look at plants and trees, you're more likely to see that pulsating energy. So try that. That was something that I read there's a book called The Celestine Prophecy, or Celestine. I don't know. People pronounce it different ways. The Celestine Prophecy is written by, oh, I think his name's, oh, it's gone. Is it John Redman? Anyway, he's a psychologist anyway, and he describes this process that you can do to work with energy, to see energy, visibly see energy. And so you're starting by trying to see auras. And the first thing to do is the space between the fingers. If you can like see the energy moving in the space between the fingers, the trick is to relax the eyes, don't stare. But if you try, you could try that out. But the easiest time is just before dawn, and you might see the auras of plants, and you just see that sort of pulsing energy. Because I don't think that we're necessarily, myself and Mark are necessarily unique in being able to see these things. I think that we were just very aware, and we were in a place that has a particular energy. Lots of UFOs seen in round about Harper Rig. Lots of different coloured balls of light are seen in that area going across the water. Yeah, it's a strange place. But as for hotspots, I would probably say that Bonnie Bridge would be it has the reputation for being the hotspot of I don't know if it's the hotspot of the world. It used to have that name, but it's certainly a hotspot in Scotland.
So what is it? Bonnie hot?
Bonnie Bridge, Bonny
Yes.
Bridge, Bridge.
Oh,
So it's Bonnie
bridge.
Bridge. Mm.
Ah, I see. Wait, I Google it and I found Bonnie Bridge in Nigeria. But it isn't
No,
in Scotland. It is in
it's
Scotland,
in
right?
Scotland.
It's Nigeria.
No,
Maybe wrong name. Maybe I typed wrong name. Maybe I don't know. Maybe.
let's see what I can find for you.
Anyway, maybe uh our participant here can ask something to you. You can raise your hand and maybe uh
Can you
use your
see
mic.
this?
Wait.
Yeah. I'll send this link in the chat.
Uh I can see it in
Mhm.
in the chat.
Yeah, I'll send it in the chat. There you go.
Ah,
Okay. So and it says it's the tiny town with
yeah,
the most
Teleton.
UFO sightings in the world. And it is Bonnie Bridge, that's the name of it.
Oh, Bonnie Bridge. I make space between Bonnie and Bridge, so
Ah,
I found it in Nigeria.
I don't know why it's called Bonnie Bridge, but I suspect that Bonnie is a word in Scotland that means pretty or lovely.
Yeah.
And so it might have been that there was once a bridge there that was a nice little bridge, you know, and so they've called it the Bonnie Bridge, and maybe that's how it got its name. But I don't know. I don't know what it actually means.
Maybe participants here want to ask you some question. Can raise hand. Oh, the government silenced us, the teeny town with the most UFO sighting in the world.
Mhm.
Wow, the UFO sightings.
That's what they say. That's what
Yeah.
they say. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking through the chat because I
Oh,
haven't had a chance to read the chat. Um,
okay. Maybe. Okay. There is a participant named Firman want to ask to you. Okay, let's go, Firman. Can ask to.
Uh, yes, thank you for the kesempatannya. Uh, Hello, Reverend Haynes or Hayes.
hello.
Sorry, Shanes.
Hi.
Sorry. Yes. Um, I it is very interesting that I just realized that you came from Scotland. And do you have any experience when you make a research about uh, the what's so called as UFO hotspot in Scotland and the Northern England, or maybe in overall Great Britain and and Ireland, because there are so many hotspots. What we call as UFO hotspots, UFO sighting hotspots over there, and the relation with the ancient monuments and also the ancient religion in United Kingdom, whether it's in Ireland, Scotland, in England itself, or and in the Wales. Do you have any experience about the research about that in the uh, until today, or probably some uh,
That's a really
archiving the sightings?
yeah,
Yes,
it's a really
I
good
think. Do you have any?
question.
Yes, thank you. Probably you have experience on that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I mean, I don't have like any like details in front of me or anything like that to give you a proper answer really. But I think it's a really interesting question because I know that UFOs have been seen above monuments. Stonehenge, I believe, has had some UFO sightings. And I mean, really in Scotland, I kept to things like bodies of water because that seemed to be where UFOs were sighted the most. Um, in places like Loch Ness, for example, doesn't just have a monster mythology. It also has UFO sightings as well. Um, I'm trying to think now, monuments in Scotland, because there's Callanish in away up in the north, in it's in one of the islands up north. But I don't know of any UFO sightings that are associated with it. I don't have any knowledge on Ireland, so I can't really talk about Ireland either. So I'm not really giving you a very good response to your question, which was a good question. Just simply because I don't have any notes prepared for that question, but it's an excellent topic. It's a really excellent topic for anybody to give a talk on, because there certainly have been UFO sightings over monuments. Some people have suggested that it's like these monuments were built on ley lines, and craft follow these ley lines like pathways, and they get energy. They might get energy from these places, what some people might call places of power. So I mean, somewhere like Stonehenge, you could imagine as a place of power. There are places in Scotland that are considered places of power and have had UFO sightings as well. The thing with bodies of water is that people think that they're it's got something to do with the fueling system of the craft, you know, rather than it being like oil. Somehow they utilize water, and so they're basically making a stop to get water. And the same could be said for why they are over like places like monuments, which may have been put there, because these places of worship, any kind of worship, whether ancient or modern, like churches, were built over these ancient places of power. They also had wells, holy, sacred wells. And these were regarded as places of power. And it could well be that these are areas where strange things have happened, where strange lights have been seen in the sky. You know, it's something for somebody to do a lot of research into that area. I think could come up with some very good information on that. Because I'm just really giving you a general answer based on what I've read generally or discussed with other people, other researchers. But I think that there is bound to be a lot of information. Might give us a lot of clues as to what how UFOs operate. I'm not sure if that answers the question really, but it's the most that I know.
Yeah, ley lines is very interesting, and I'm still curious how the lines can cross to path that UFO like to visit. For example, uh, the place name. Have you ever uh, read or known about an incident in Indonesia? The place is incident of Alor Island, which the incident maybe the same year with the incident of Boanai, which Father Gill uh, saw the UFO and the alien waving to them. Yeah, the
Yeah.
place. Oh yeah, that's very interesting case because uh, there was like uh, like priest who came to Boanai in Papua New Guinea, and there was an UFO with with alien on it, and the alien is like fixing the broken UFO, but the UFO is still flying. And after after the alien fixed the UFO, and the people in Boanai area waving to the UFO, and the alien is waving too. Yeah, that's very
That's
interesting.
brilliant.
Yeah, and I think Alor Island crossed by what is it? Ley lines,
Mm.
and yeah, that's uh,
Yeah,
interesting.
interesting. So
Yeah,
so maybe the alien was utilizing the ley line
yeah.
to fix the UFO. Yeah. I'm trying to somebody Ari has said I once saw a UFO with colourful pulsations a size of city car, and that happened before dawn. In Jakarta, is this related to energy originating from interdimensional beings? So I don't quite know what you mean by originating from. Um,
Maybe uh, he
I'm
means
not.
that the UFO is from interdimensional, the pulsating energy, maybe interdimensional UFO.
Yeah, could be. Could be. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Um, but it's really good that you had such a sighting. It was the size of a car. That's quite incredible. And again that it happened just before dawn, you were able to see it. Um, I'm wondering, and there's when Ari's saying that it's the size of a car, but like what shape was it? Was it just like a round like ball, or was it um but yeah, I mean, that's not to say that some UFOs that are pulsating are actually physical UFOs that come from this planet. I would obviously need to know a lot more about the UFO, what it looked like, how far away it was, how fast it was flying. I would need to know an awful lot more information before I would be able to give an answer to that.
By the way, Rev Alyson, we have now reached the end of time of our discussion event because beta talks usually in 2 hours, and
Mhm.
it is very interesting discussion. And I thanks to you for agreeing to attend as a speaker with us. Maybe a last question
Mhm.
for me. Can we say that alien is a demon?
Would I say that aliens were demons?
Yeah, can we say that alien and demon is the same or
I
really,
don't
really
think,
different?
yeah, I don't think that we can necessarily say that aliens and demons are the same thing, because there's so many different experiences of aliens and there are different experiences of demons. It's just that in some cases there appears to have been a crossover, you know, like with my experience of the incubus, but somebody saw a UFO outside. There's a crossover there. But the aliens that I saw, the Pleiadians that I saw, were not demonic at all. If anything, they were angelic. So, but then, you know, some people will see humanoid aliens, that it's not anything to do with an experience that they've had when they're sleeping. It's to do with an experience that they've had when they've been out driving their car. And the experience that they've had has involved a very real, like physical being who's abducted them. So that, again, that might be an alien who has somehow managed to travel here, physically travel here. Or it could have something to do with what's the name that it's given? Psyops, is it psyops? When it's like a government operation, basically, but we are under the impression that it's alien, but it's actually not. It's a government thing. So that is another suggestion, that in some cases it's the abduction might have been carried out by a human working for the government. So that there's so many different experiences. I don't think that you can say that aliens are necessarily demons. I think there can be many different things.
Okay.
That would be my question. But it's been an absolute honor. It really has been an absolute honor to be here and to be talking to you about this, and to have met you all. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Rev Alyson. Your experience is very interesting, and your explanation give us good feedback, as we are UFO enthusiasts in Indonesia, and we are thank you to you, thanks to you, and yeah, hope someday one of us can visit you in Scotland, and
Yes,
we can discuss aliens and UFO more intensely. Yeah. Okay.
lovely.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you, Rev Alyson.
thank you.
I will after I upload in YouTube, I will send the links to you by email.
Lovely. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay. Bye bye.
bye now, Reza.
Yeah.